The Trump administration still insists that they are deporting the worst of the worst. But the Marshall Project analyzed data obtained by the Deportation Data Project and found that since the start of the second Trump administration, the number of children in ICE custody has skyrocketed, jumping more than tenfold. ICE held an average of 226 children per day under Trump, compared to 25 per day under Biden. Many of those detained are families who had been living in U.S. communities for years and were taken into custody at routine check-ins, bus stops, hospitals, airports, and sometimes even schools, often despite having active asylum cases, humanitarian parole, U.S. citizen relative sponsors, and they had no criminal record. Liam Ramos, with his cute blue bunny hat and Spider-Man backpack, sparked public backlash when ICE used him as bait to lure his parents out of their house. The Trump administration found a way to carry out their mission without drawing attention to itself. In newly leaked documents that were obtained by Glenn Klippenstein, the Trump administration has set aside tens of millions of dollars to local police stations to help carry out its mass deportation policy, including incentive payments for processing unaccompanied alien children. Within hours of these children being abducted, they are transported to the Dilley Family Detention Center in Texas. And thanks to a Minneapolis plane enthusiast and activist, Nick Benson, with the grassroots pro-democracy organization MN 50501, we now know how they do it so quickly. Benson had been watching men and women in shackles board the deportation flights, but never once seen a child board one of these flights. He never seen a kid like 5-year-old Liam. With his extensive knowledge of the inside of a Minneapolis airport, and he knew roughly when Liam would have traveled, he requested video surveillance footage. The footage showed Liam and his father being led into a Delta flight to San Antonio at gate F-113. This is happening quietly around unsuspecting passengers on passenger airlines in regular airports, flying prisoners to Trump prison camps to be held without trial, including little kids. CoreCivic, the privately owned company that owns Dilley, is set to make millions from detaining children. And because it is for-profit company, they cut costs to make a bigger profit and keep the children longer than the 20 days that the federal law requires. The conditions inside the Dilley Detention Center are horrendous. According to court documents, detainees describe prolonged stays, despondent children, limited access to drinkable water, food that is moldy and has worms, and agents offering money for families to voluntarily leave the country. Families told Lisa Welch, Deputy Litigation Director at Children's Rights, that their children are weak, faint, pale, and often crying because they are so hungry. The public is rarely given an opportunity to glimpse inside Dilley and get a look at how these kids are doing. Thanks to ProPublica receiving letters from children inside the detention center, they can speak for themselves. 9-year-old Suzette from Venezuela has been detained for 50 days, wrote, "I miss my school and my friends. I feel bad since when I came here to this place because I have been here too long." 14-year-old Ariana from Honduras has been detained for 45 days. "Since I got to this center, all you will feel is sadness and mostly depression. 7-year-old Mia from Venezuela has been detained for 70 days, wrote, "I don't want to be in this place. I want to go to my school." 12-year-old Ender from Venezuela, who has been detained for 60 days, wrote, "More than 60 days, going to the doctor, and that the only thing they tell you is to drink more water. And the worst thing is that it seems that the water is what makes people sick here." After these letters were published, detainees told ProPublica that the guards raided the children's rooms, confiscated and destroyed children's letters and artwork. Art supplies were removed. They lost access to Gmail, and staff hover within earshot during video calls with their lawyers and reporters. They cite retaliation for the letters exposing the harsh conditions of detention. MS Now's national reporter, Rosa Flores, talked to some of the detainees that were released from the Dilley Detention Center in her report for the network called Trapped, Traumatized, Tracked, Inside the Trump Detention Center Pipeline. I highly recommend that you watch the entire report. I will leave the link in this description, but here is just a few of the clips.
Entonces usted sí lo vio.
Sí.
She says that she saw with her own eyes that there were worms on broccoli. ¿Y qué fue la reacción? What happened after that?
No, él empezó a decir en inglés, el brócoli tiene gusano, no se coman eso.
She says that immediately after that, the detainee that had the worms in his food started saying, don't eat it, and that she never ate vegetables in there after. Su hijo, ¿cómo está? How is your son?
Todavía se despierta en las noches llorando.
She says that he wakes up at night crying.
No ha querido comer mucho todavía.
He still doesn't eat. ¿Por qué la dejaron a usted salir? ¿Le dijeron? Why did they release you? Did they tell you?
No, solamente me fueron a buscar ese día.
She says that they didn't tell her why they were releasing her, but they told her that there was $5,000 that she could receive if she self-deported. Entonces le estaban tratando de decir que se podía autodeportar
me podía,
y le daban $5,000.
Ajá, y eso no me afectaba ya luego para cuando yo quisiera regresar más adelante.
Hace rato cuando ellos me ponían a la esposa, me sentía, o sea, mi corazón se partía en 1000 pedazos, como dije. Yo no hice ningún daño, yo no vine a hacer daño a nadie, o sea, porque ellos tratan de esta manera como que fuéramos delincuentes.
Y las mandaron por avión de Minneapolis a Texas.
Sí.
She says that they were flown from Minneapolis to Texas. Y luego las llevaron a Dilley.
Sí.
And then you went to the Dilley Detention Center.
Sí.
¿Y cómo estuvo la situación dentro de Dilley? What was it like inside Dilley?
Ahí también hay muchas mujeres con niños de 0 años hasta 17 años, o sea, toda clase de niños y mujeres embarazadas de 8 meses, eso es lo que también me dolía. Ahí dentro, o sea, hay mujeres que lloraban, hay niños que lloraban.
¿Se sentía el dolor dentro?
Ajá, se sentía algo muy fuerte aquí dentro que decía, ay, ¿qué estoy? ¿Dónde estoy?
Texas Rep. Greg Kazar visited the Dilley Family Detention Center and shared a truly heartbreaking story of one of the detainees at a press conference.
Also read a letter from Junior, who is a high school student from Austin, Texas. My name is Junior Andrade. I was born in June of 2009. My brother is Alexis. He was born in June of 2013, so he's 12 years old. I am the son of Reina and Jose. For years, we've lived a good life. I went to school every single day. I went to school every single day. My brother played on the soccer team that was sponsored by NASA. We had a good life without torment or threats. But last month, on the 2nd of March 2026, at 5 in the morning, something happened that was unthinkable. Law enforcement officers knocked down the door of our house without any kind of warrant or warning. They knocked over things all around our house. They came into our room. First, he entered the room of my little brother, who was only 12 years old, and they pointed guns at him. They threw him against the wall, and they handcuffed him. They pulled his hair. Then they smashed open the door to my room, and I didn't know what was happening. I was trembling from fear. They threw me against the wall. They handcuffed me at gunpoint, and they also did the same to my parents. Now they have us at the Dilley Immigration Processing Center. We no longer want to be here. The beds are uncomfortable. My body always hurts. They barely bring us water, and the water that we do have has made my stomach hurt. The people who work here are always in a horrible mood, and the clinic has not given the medicine that my mom needs to her. And the food that they have given us has made me sick. I want to leave here. I miss my school. I miss eating breakfast with my family, to be able to see movies together, to be able to go out together with my family. I want to be happy once again. We want to be able to stay here in the United States, in our home. We don't feel safe going anywhere else. I want to be able to go to college to study. I want to have the life that we had, and for my parents to be able to continue to work so that we can be a family once again.
Under Mark Wayne Mullen's leadership at DHS, the cruelty is the same, but now there's more secrecy. Representative Joaquin Castro describes his interactions with ICE during his visit to Dilley.
This visit was unlike any that I've been to before at Dilley, and in many ways worse. When we got there, the folks from ICE pulled out scripts that they had been commanded to read by ICE leadership in Washington, D.C. ICE leadership also sent people down. They sent them down on, well, HHS sent people down on Monday and on Tuesday. ICE sent people from Washington down today to monitor our visit. So there was a kind of creepiness to these adults who had answered my questions before, who were out of the San Antonio field office or working in Dilley, who were sitting there, or standing there actually, in each of the rooms that we went to, the cafeteria, the library, the main conference room, and literally telling me that they had been sent talking points and reading a script. When we asked questions, they said that we would have to put those in writing and they would be answered in Washington. So under Secretary Mullins, DHS has become more secretive, not less.
Of course, DHS denies all of the allegations of the conditions inside Dilley. They even went as far as making a propaganda video reminiscent of the documentary film that they did in Nazi Germany to cover up the conditions inside the concentration camps. A little background on the documentary film, referred to as the Therenstat film. In 1944, there was growing international pressure, and reports reached neutral and allied nations of the atrocities that were being committed by the Nazi regime in the concentration camps. They chose the Therenstat concentration camp and ghetto located in Czechoslovakia for the location because it already had a deceptive facade. It was presented as a model ghetto where elderly, prominent, and artistic Jews were sent. In reality, it was a transit camp where prisoners were actually deported to extermination camps like Auschwitz. A particularly chilling aspect of the film is the use of children smiling and playing, giving the false impression that the children were being well cared for. Historians and scholars study the film as a powerful reminder of the dangers of propaganda and the importance of uncovering the truth behind oppressive regimes. And that is what I'm trying to do by making videos to push back on the propaganda. If the conditions in Dili weren't bad enough, ICE is planning a facility at the England Air Force Base, now called England Air Park in Louisiana, for unaccompanied children and families on land that is contaminated with PFAS. PFAS levels in the groundwater have been found at least 40 million parts per trillion. The federal drinking water limits for several PFAS compounds range 4 to 10 parts per trillion, meaning that the levels have been at least 575,000 times higher than the limit. England's groundwater has shown the highest levels ever recorded, and it is among the most PFAS polluted sites in the U.S. It is also contaminated with other highly toxic chemicals and range of volatile organic compounds, and there's concerns that there is asbestos in the barracks. The base likely gets its groundwater from elsewhere, but the chemicals are in the soil and in the air. PFAS are called forever chemicals because they accumulate and do not naturally break down and have been linked to cancer, kidney disease, liver problems, immune disorders, birth defects, and other serious health problems. Nobody should be housed at a contaminated site, let alone children and possibly pregnant women. Now, for an administration that says that it is pro-life, they are doing everything in their power to harm children. These children will have higher rates of PTSD, they'll have behavioral problems, developmental delays, depression, suicidal ideation, self-harm, malnutrition, cavities that can lead to serious health concerns. A pediatrician breaks down the statistics.
Children deserve the very best of us, and we deserve to put as much time and effort and money in helping our kids be the healthiest version of themselves in the United States and worldwide. But I'm going to read you some numbers and tell me if it fits with that agenda. The United States has detained over 3,800 children in ICE detention centers in 2025 alone. Studies show us from other countries and our own data that of those 38 children, these are some statistics that we can expect. 646 of those children will likely be diagnosed with PTSD. 1,672 of those children will have at least one diagnosable behavioral concern. 3,610 will likely be diagnosed with major depressive disorder. 2,166 will have some form of suicidal ideation or thoughts or self-harm. 2,850 will have some form of developmental delay. 2,128 will experience malnutrition, and 2,100 will experience dental cavities, which can lead to significant health problems. These are big numbers. These are real numbers. These are real people that the United States is paying tax dollars to do this to them.
And if that wasn't enough, ICE hired the private firm MVM Inc. that has been accused of torture and forced disappearance to track down unaccompanied children. The agency characterized the work of tracing immigrant children who reached the U.S. without authorization and were released in communities while they go through immigration proceedings as safety and wellness checks. ICE says it wants to confirm the children's location, school enrollment, and overall wellness, including checking for signs of abuse or trafficking, according to the contracting document. But an internal ICE document, ICE actually runs the operations with the aim of deporting the children are pursuing criminal cases against them, or their adult sponsors sheltering them legally in the U.S. A critic has called ICE's efforts a backdoor family separation. The Trump administration immigration policy is not deporting the worst of the worst, or even deporting immigrants that came to the U.S. illegally, because they are detaining immigrants at their ICE check-ins, courthouses, when they show up for their immigration hearings, asylum seekers, DACA recipients, and even green card holders, and now they are going after birthright citizenship and trying to denaturalize citizens. Let's call it what it is. It is ethnic cleansing. Stand up, speak out. Call your congressman at 224-3121 and demand that they end child detention and close Dilley. Go to gtfoice.org and get immediate alerts if ICE facility is going to be built in your area and help lead the fight to stop it. Go to change.org and sign the petition and tell Delta Airlines that they must vow never to fly deportation flights. Go to aclu.org and donate if you can, because they are fighting back in the courts against Trump's immigration policy. Go out and protest. You only need 3% of the population to make changes. Go to nokings.org to see when the next No Kings protest is in your area. Go to volunteerblue.org and volunteer to register, contact, and turn out Democrat voters. Vote blue in the midterms and make it too big to rig, because Trump is going to do everything in his power to rig that election. I will leave the links to all of these websites in the description. Thanks for watching.